Well, it's the first day of 2023, and happy fucking New Year. 2022 had a lot of interesting shit going on. A few accomplishments on my part. First off, this thing, that keeps on going, the channel. The launch of a Grindhouse Resurrection magazine, which is head and shoulders above the old magazine. And the publication of Two-Fisted Tales of Times Square, which I somehow this year got to get into some kind of general release so everybody can check this stuff out. But we did end 2022 on a down note. We lost director Ruggiero Deodato, and I did a brief little thing about him about a couple days ago. But actually, I rewatched Cannibal Holocaust last night. Here's a slant that, I haven't talked about on either of his two cannibal films, was that most of the guys that put this thing over, like Tarantino and Roth and shit, never saw this in a theater at all. But they, claim it influenced them or something. I mean, I know Roth did that fucking hideous remake, The Emerald Jungle or Emerald Forest, or I don't even know what the fuck it was. Green Inferno? Well, I don't even... That's how much I gave a shit because it kind of sucked. But going back to what Deodato did, his first cannibal film in 1977 was shot in the Philippines. I think it was on Mindanao, the island of Mindanao. And the original title was, if I remember right, because it was popped up on the prints that showed up on bootlegs, was Last Cannibal World. And then it was released as Mondo Cannibal. Then it was put on a double bill with Raw Meat as Carnivorous. And it was one of those deals where these import companies, I think it was United Producers or whatever the fuck it was, and them was Motion Picture Marketing. They were all shady little outfits that brought in, import films. And they took a lot of leeway with Last Cannibal World because they kept retitling it and re-releasing it. Now, I didn't see it in '77. I was down in Irvington, supposedly going to meet Big Al for some reason, but Big Al, for whatever reason, never showed up. So I'm by the Castle Theater, and they're running this thing called The Last Survivor, which, to my uneducated eyes, was some kind of a jungle adventure film. So being that he wasn't going to show, and I had nothing better to do, I decided to check this out. Well, to be honest with you, it was a lot more than I expected. It's about four people that are in this small plane, two geologists, Rolf and Robert, the pilot Charlie, and this young girl named Swan. And when they land, they break a wheel or something like that and have to spend the night there. Well, they were looking for the other people that were there and found some blood-stained clothing, and down the road some human remains by the river. So they decide to spend the night in the plane. Well, of course, nature calls. Swan has to go out and answer the call of nature and is dragged off screaming into the jungle. Of course, none of these intrepid guys are going to go off into the jungle and try to help her, so they wait all morning. So they're going through the jungle and they smell smoke and smell something cooking, and they come across a barbecue from hell. A bunch of cannibals are eating Swan. And when I mean eating her, it's not the cutaway thing. You basically see them chomping on what looks like human flesh. This causes them to go into a panic, and the pilot Charlie runs into one of those balls that are loaded with spikes that pins him against the tree. Rolf and Bob try to get back via raft, but are separated. Robert is captured by the cannibals and put through some humiliating things like male frontal nudity and stuff like that. And I got to interrupt one thing right here. What you see on DVD and Blu-ray is not what we saw in the theaters, because these films were trimmed a bit. I mean, I'm sure they didn't put these before the MPAA to get a rating, because they would have never got a fucking R rating. That R was just slapped on. Whoever trimmed these things down or whatever, there was another thing going on at the time where projectionists would clip certain scenes out of movies and sell them to private collectors. So that was another problem. So basically, we never saw any of these films intact the way you guys get to see them on DVD and Blu-ray. But anyway, this young cannibal girl, played by Mimi Lai, gives Rob a hand job through the cage. Of course, they pee on him, throw rocks on him, but his two cellmates are these two large birds. Well, one bird is removed and is eaten by a python, and the tribe brings the python into the cave and crushes its skull with a rock and guts the python and pulls out the bird. Well, this shit is not added footage. This shit was not put in after the fact by the producers. These fuckers killed the big snake. Not that I got a problem with killing big snakes, because I'm not a snake fan. The next bird is taken out and is used as bait to get a crocodile. And again, they drag this crocodile into the cave, and this is no special effects. They kill the crocodile, gut him, and pull out the bird. Well, about this time, Rob figures out that he's next on the menu. So he gets away by killing one of the cannibals, grabs Mimi Lai and takes her out, and basically rapes her in the mud. Then she becomes beholden to him, as like a maid, I guess, whatever the cannibal shit is. But they find Rolf, who is held up in a cave and is cut and is got this huge pussy infection on his knee. So they decide to try to get back to the plane because that's their only hope. Well, they get attacked again. Rolf gets wounded. Mimi Lai, the girl, gets dragged out. Her head gets caved in. She's disemboweled, gutted, and cooked like a pig on a spit. Of course, they actually did use a pig carcass for the scene, but nevertheless, it looks fucking real. Other horrific scenes are a woman giving birth by the river and noticing that the infant is a girl, and then feeds it to the crocodiles. This thing's unrelenting. Well, they get to the plane, and Rob has a showdown with one of the cannibals where he basically kills the guy in hand-to-hand combat, cuts out his liver, and eats it in front of the tribe. That gets rid of the attack. They leave. Rolf dies in the plane, and Robert Harper is supposedly living in Mexico, and the producers assure us that this really fucking happened. Well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. They also claim that a crew member of the film crew disappeared on the island, too. Go figure. Well, thing is, this thing was released in a big clamshell box on VHS as Jungle Holocaust, the cash-in on what was yet to come. Like I said, I saw it as Last Survivor. It's had several other releases, different names, different titles, maybe about 4 or 5. Well, I saw that, like I said, at the Castle Theater in Irvington. Well, Cannibal Holocaust came out, I believe, in the early 80s. It was playing at the Wellmont in Montclair. It opened on a Wednesday. I was going to go see it on Friday, but by then, due to the animal atrocities in the film, it had already been yanked. So now I had to go over to 42nd Street, and I figured it would have been playing at the Liberty. And I kept, for some reason, my drunken, pickled brain kept thinking I did see it at the Liberty, where I didn't see it at the Liberty. It was actually playing at the Harris at the other end of the block, which was in close proximity to a lot of shit that you don't want to deal with, like Top's Bar and the New Barracks, which was a gay bathhouse which attracted rough clientele. So I had heard about this thing. I wanted to see it. It was playing with some kung fu flick or something. The film only ran 2 weeks at the Harris. It wasn't brought back like other writers say it was brought back. At least I never saw it brought back. Where it's competition, for lack of better words, Make Them Die Slowly, was brought back quite a few times. The reason was this film was shot in a documentary style and had scenes that would basically fucking flatline the audience. It is one of the few films that I have seen where it basically stunned the audience into silence. Everybody who's probably watching this has probably seen it at this point. Basically, it's a crew of 4 news people go down to South America to expose the myth of cannibalism, and when they can't find something, they create something. They burn a bunch of natives alive in a hut. That starts the downhill slide. They also rape another girl in the mud, and she is found with impaled with the stake going up her hoo-hoo and coming out her mouth. For years, the legend of this film was that it was an actual snuff film and they did fucking kill people. Deodato was hauled into court for obscenity, then murder. Part of his contract with the actors back then was after the film was finished, they were supposed to disappear for a year so it would look like they were actually killed. Well, he had to produce them at his court case or he was going to go to jail for murder. Like I said, the film ran 2 weeks at the Harris. I actually heard some people getting sick in the back. That a whole climactic, when the cannibals, give the guys their comeuppance, is what really fucking pretty much flatlined the audience. I mean, one guy, they basically, they kill him with a spear, they drag him into a clearing, they cut his dick off, they disembowel him, they cut off his head. Again, I think they're using a pig carcass. They're hitting it with stone axes. The woman of the group is dragged in, stripped naked, raped by the tribe, and then she is like thrown to the ground and chopped up with stone axes, and one of them runs around with her severed head. The culprit who started this thing, played by Carl York, is basically, that's the last thing you see is his eyes flickering as something caves in his head and blood pours down his face. They are watching the thing in the newsroom because they were going to release this as a documentary, and after the scene is over, they said take the film and burn it. Robert Kerman, who was the star in not only Cannibal Holocaust, but also Make Them Die Slowly and Eaten Alive, shit all over the film, hoped the film would fail. He was down on the animal cruelty, down on the whole thing, and basically has never had a good thing to say about the film, even in interviews before his death. Like I said, the film was stuff that legends were made of. There was never a really good copy floating around. Rick Sullivan from the Gore Gazette was selling it as a bootleg in the back of his newsletter for years. But it was, like I said, a grainy, nasty VHS copy. Sage Stallone and Bob Murawski from Grindhouse Releasing have completely restored this thing, and it's now available in pristine condition with all the trailers and all the ballyhoo. See, that was another thing, too. With Carnivorous, the trailer never showed anything, just inferred that you were going to see actual scenes of human flesh being eaten, and the management of the theater did not want to run any scenes of that because of people that might be squeamish or sensitive in the theater. Like I said, the two films are legendary for their brutality and horrific content. Whether somebody could do this today, well, somebody tried. The Green Inferno thing, it didn't work. You're not going to show a cannibal film in a fucking multiplex. Like I've said before, these films only worked because nobody had ever done anything like this before, period. And, there was only basically two guys doing this. It was Umberto Lenzi and Ruggiero Deodato. And I know Joe D'Amato did one, Emmanuel and the Last Cannibals. Jess Franco did some, which were fucking atrocious. But, the two fucking crown jewels in the sleazy Grindhouse, crown would be Cannibal Holocaust and Last Cannibal World, because the fuckers look real. That's the whole gist of it. They look fucking real, and whether you like Deodato or you hate him, he made the shit look fucking real, and he kicked you in the fucking balls with these films, basically. And it's sad that he passed away at age 83, but he left this legacy of two films that are so controversial, but will never be imitated and will never be duplicated, because, like I said, these two were one of a kind, and that's the only reason they worked. One was in 1977, and it was constantly re-released up until, I would say the late 80s. And like I said, Cannibal Holocaust was only released as Cannibal Holocaust. And like I said, only ran 2 weeks at the Harris Theater on 42nd Street. It was brought back as a revival when Grindhouse Releasing got it at the Pioneer Two Boots Theater. I think it ran for a couple weeks down there to standing room only crowds. Thankfully, right now, the film is still available on Blu-ray and DVD from Grindhouse Releasing from our buddies over there. And hopefully it'll stay, available and not disappear like a lot of films are disappearing. But, now we're into 2003. It's a whole new ball game. There's a lot going to happen in 2003, hopefully. The next issue of Grindhouse Resurrection should be available by late January, early February. And it's going to blow everybody's mind because there's some stuff in there and there's an interview in there that's never been done before. So I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag until I have the proof in my hands, but trust me, it's going to be worth waiting for. So I wish you a happy new year and more importantly, a healthy new year. Everybody stay safe. I'm going to keep this thing going and we'll catch you on the flip side.